says, be ready to speak up and tell anyone who asks why you're living the way that you are, and always do this with the utmost courtesy. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something that could be a little bit awkward, so prepare your hearts. We're going to talk today about the subject of sex and how we talk about that with someone that we are getting to know, possibly dating, possibly want to go into marriage with. Now, I know this is going to be an awkward conversation for most of you, and that's okay, but we're going to go for it, ladies. We're going to be bold. We're going to be courageous. So now I know that when I said that, some of the first things that might have rolled up in your heart were, Tiff, it is his job to bring this up. It is not my job. It is his job to lead the relationship. It's his job to lead in the purity department. False. Ladies, here's the deal. You are both equal participants in this relationship. And that requires both of you to show up with courage and vulnerability and authenticity. And sex, whether we want it to be in the room or not, it is. And so I just want to give you some permission today, to be honest. Number one, you have full permission to bring up the topic of sex or physical expectations first. You do not have to wait for him to bring it up. There's no number of dates that you have to go on to bring it up. You have full permission to bring it up because if it's important to you, you need to be talking about it. Secondly, you have every right to communicate your standards, and this is just for free. Your guy is not a mind reader. He doesn't know what's going on inside of you. He doesn't know your history. He doesn't know your boundaries, and he doesn't know what your normal is, and you don't know what his is either. You do not have to feel peer pressure to conform to what's normal. I'll say that again. I do not want you to feel pressure to conform to what is normal. So meaning it doesn't matter if all of your girlfriends are sleeping with their boyfriends or if everyone that you know is having sex. You do not have to follow the crowd. You have full permission to be who God's called you to be and to live according to your standards. And at the end of the day, who cares what everyone else is doing? You're the one that has to go to sleep at night with your choices, right? Number 4, just like 1 Peter 3:13 said, be courteous when you bring up this subject. This is a very sensitive and delicate subject. You do not know what the other person in the room has gone through or experienced. So I would encourage you to be gentle and to be kind and to be courteous when you talk about such a delicate subject. 6th, and this is just practical, I would probably have this conversation during the day when you both are rested, when you both are clear thinking, and a Saturday night in the back of the car when things are getting hot and heavy is not the time to talk about what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. Just be wise when you set the standard to have this conversation. And lastly, and this is a deal breaker, you need to be okay if he walks away when you communicate your standards. You need to just reconcile in your heart, this is who I am, this is how I've chosen to live my life, and I have to be okay with him if he walks away and he's not okay walking with me on this journey. And you might even be thinking, Tiff, I'm not even really sure how I feel about sex on my own, let alone am I comfortable talking to it with someone of the opposite sex. And I just want to say as well, that is okay too. And I would challenge you, if that's you and this session has kind of triggered you to spike in fear or anxiety, or you have a ton of questions and you're like, I don't even know how I feel about sex, let alone trying to talk to my boyfriend about it, that's okay. Let's bring everything down. But I would challenge you to figure out what you actually believe about sex. You've got to figure this thing out, Figure out what you're okay giving away physically to someone who has not committed to spend his life with you forever and ever, amen. Meaning, if he walked away tomorrow, would you be devastated by what you gave away? That's kind of a good gauge. Get really good at figuring out what's going on inside of you when the subject of sex comes up. A lot of times we don't even know what we're feeling or how we feel about something. So just take a moment. If something comes up and you recognize that you're like, oh gosh, I felt a wall go up or I felt fear go up. Get really good at recognizing what you're feeling and talk through those feelings with the Lord. You can trust the Lord. He's the one that put a sex drive inside of you. He's the one that created sex. So your feelings about sex don't scare him, intimidate him, and he's not mad at you for having them. Lastly, I would encourage you to write out everything that's going on inside of you. There's something about writing out what we feel and our convictions, that puts grit in us and kind of solidifies the commitment versus just verbally processing everything and not ever putting it down on paper. So ladies, I want to encourage you today. You can do this. I bless you to be bold in communicating about sex in your life.